Aloha and good morning. Welcome to the House Committee on Tourism. It is Thursday, February 2nd at 10 a.m. and we are in conference room 423. My name is Sean Quinlan. I will be your chair for the next 2 years. My very capable vice chair, Natalia Hussey-Burdick, also known as NHB. Just some ground rules. We do have a 2-minute time limit for testimony in this committee, and I would ask that all professional testifiers, when possible, please do stand in your testimony. We've got some great bills to get out today, and I'd like to get them done before session. All right. So first up, we have HB 85 relating to single-use plastics. First, we have the Department of Health with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Wendy Okazaki, and I work for the Department of Health. We stand on our written testimony with comments about this bill. Thank you
Very much. Next, we have DLNR with comments.
Aloha, Chair Quinlan, Vice Chair Hussey-Burdick. I don't dare call you NHB. And members of the committee, I'm Laura Ka'akua, Governor's nominee for the Deputy Director of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our comments. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Next, we have HTA with comments.
Aloha kahiaka, Chair, Vice Chair, members. Ilihia Johnson on behalf of the Hawaii Tourism Authority. Our President and CEO, John DeFries, is under the weather today, and he sends his aloha to all of you. Stand on our written testimony, available for questions. Mahalo.
Thanks very much. Next, we have HLTA in support. Oh, we managed to get back here faster than Jared. Okay. Next, we have the Kohala Coast Resort Association in support. We have the Plastics Industry Association in opposition. We have the Beach Environmental Awareness Campaign, Hawaii, in support. And we have a number of individuals in support. Is there anyone else who's wishing to testify on this measure? If not, members, questions? Moving on. Next, we have HB 211 relating to transient accommodations. First, we have DOTAX with comments.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is David Richmond. I'm here on behalf of the Department of Taxation. The department stands on its written testimony and offering comments, and I'm available for questions.
Thanks very much. Next, we have HTA with comments.
Aloha again. Stand on our written comments. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next, we have Tom Yamachika. Tom, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation of Hawaii. Greetings,
What's up, man? I missed you.
Chair,
time.
Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tax Foundation will stand on its written testimony, be available for questions.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Airbnb with comments.
My name is David Louie. I submitted some testimony. I'm not sure if Airbnb also submitted something or if you're calling my testimony.
Feel free, please, come on up.
Pardon?
Oh, my.
Well, that was difficult.
Are you okay?
Sorry, yes, I'm fine. Sorry.
Is Blake okay?
Yeah, Blake, are you okay?
Yes, I've been accused of being clumsy before. I apologize. This is yours. Thank you. Thank you. I apologize. Chair Quinlan, Vice Chair Hussey-Burdick, I thank you for the opportunity. My name is David Louie, former Attorney General of the state of Hawaii, and I am a consultant outside, a lawyer for Airbnb. I wanted to raise concerns about HB 211. While I appreciate the concerns of this committee and the legislature about tourism and housing and short-term rentals, any regulations need to be within the bounds of the U.S. Constitution, the Hawaii Constitution, and federal regulations and things like that, and basic fairness. And there's problems with this bill which are raised. So the first problem is Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which is a federal law, and basically that says that hosting platforms such as Airbnb cannot be held responsible for the content. And this particular bill, Section 237D blank A2, requires the hosting platform, the transient accommodation broker, to make sure that certain content is included in any advertisement. That's going to run afoul of federal law. There's a lot of cases on that. Even though there are cases that allow some regulation, not on this area. The second problem, and I think the more egregious problem with the bill as written, is the requirement in 481B that it is unlawful for a hosting booking service to do business with anybody who is not in full compliance with all laws of the state of Hawaii. That's an impossible requirement. I mean, if somebody got a jaywalking ticket, if somebody hasn't paid their property taxes, if somebody hasn't paid their federal taxes or their state taxes, this bill as written makes it illegal for a hosting platform
Sorry.
to do business. So thank you for that. That
Thank
would
you very
be the
much.
concern.
Appreciate your testimony. Thank you. Next, we have Expedia Group in opposition. Okay. We have a number of individuals in support. Members, questions? Seeing none, moving on. HB 442 relating to environmental protection. First up, we have the Office of the Governor with comments.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair. Blake Oshiro, Senior Advisor on Policy for the Governor. With your indulgence, Chair, there are 3 bills up for hearing today that all have to do with visitor impact fees. And so if I could just summarize our position. Our position is we support all of them. We support the intent. We really appreciate the legislature taking a look at the idea of a visitor impact fee. We think they all have merit. They all have somewhat different approaches. We also suggested in our testimony taking a look at House Bill number 1051 because that has gone through some vetting by DLNR as well as the Attorney General. But the differences between 1051 and some of the bills before you are not that substantive. They're more technical. But we still would recommend you take a look at those. I'll be available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the Attorney General with comments.
Good morning, Chair Quinlan and members of the committee. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify on this bill. It's a really exciting program, and the Attorney General strongly supports the intent and purpose of this bill. But like the Governor's testimony immediately before, we'd like to direct the committee's attention to House Bill 1051, which has some changes and tweaks that were arrived at in a way to make it best able to survive legal challenges. And we're actually confident that it can do so.
Okay.
And I did want to make myself available if there are any questions from the committee. But again, we do strongly support this bill and the intent of it with the modifications. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have DLNR in support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Laura Ka'akua with the Department of Land and Natural Resources. I wanted to just make a kind of a blanket comment on the green fee bills coming forward. The department is very grateful and supportive of all the intent of all the bills. And we have, as Blake Oshiro mentioned, vetted House Bill 1051 and Senate Bill 1349. So that would be our preferred vehicle to move this forward, but the intent and support for our natural and cultural resources is the same throughout, and we're very appreciative. Mahalo. Available for questions.
Thanks very much. Next up, we have HTA with comments.
Aloha ho kako. We stand on our written comments in support of the intent, and thank you for considering this bill. Mahalo.
Thanks very much. Next, we have the Maui Hotel and Lodging Association with comments. We also have a number of different organizations in support. We've got Surfrider, Hawaii Green Fee, Trust for Public Land, Nature Conservancy. We have Tom Yamachika and Tax Foundation with comments.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. If we're talking about, the various bills that impose visitor green fees, we really haven't had time to take a look at the House 1051, which the Attorney General had recommended. But of the bills before you now, we are concerned that this one I think 1162 are not going to make it because of what's called the Privileges and Immunities Clause of the U.S. Constitution. We think that House 1237 is okay because it's more directed to, or the fees are more directed to the particular attractions or natural resources that the visitors do visit. The problem here, representatives, is that you really can't charge a tax to a visitor to come here and visit places that residents can normally go, because we're supposed to have we have a constitutional right to travel to any other state, and there are some U.S. Supreme Court cases that we've described in our testimony that flesh that out. So we are concerned that if we have monies in a special fund and the special fund can spend the money for a variety of uses, not limited to the attractions visited by the visitors, it would be more like a tax, and that would be unconstitutional. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tom.
If you so desire.
Thank you. Next, we have the National Tropical Botanical Garden, the Resources Legacy Fund, and Kupu all in support. We also have, please come up.
For Resource Legacy Fund, we support all three bills. We want to thank the committee for hearing these bills. It's an investment in our natural resources and cultural resources, and it's a dedicated source of funding. So we thank you again, and we support all three bills.
Thanks
Thank
very
you,
much.
Chair.
Appreciate that. We also have HLTA in support. We have Huio Ho'ohonua in support. And we have a number of individuals also in support. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on this measure that I may have missed? Do ready, please.
Aloha, Chair Quinlan, Vice Chair Hesse Burdick, and members of the committee. I think many of you are somewhat aware of this. We're really grateful to have the governor's and AG support and their staff's time in reviewing a lot of these bills. And so we do support the measures that they've endorsed and introduced as well. But just wanted to share, I'm the organizer for the Hawaii, community organizer for the Hawaii Green Fee Coalition. A large group of us, including many different organizations in partnership with state agencies and businesses, have worked on this for 5 years. And this is really just a way for us to finally close the gap in conservation sustainability funding and to address the needs that Hawaii has with the climate crisis being so vulnerable to climate change. And so really, really excited that things are moving forward, and grateful for your consideration of these bills. And this is our testimony for all three of the Green Fee bills that are being heard today, and in support of the other ones that are in queue as well and available for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Aloha.
I'm sorry. We have someone in person that's going to testify, then we'll get right to you on Zoom. So please, sir, go ahead.
Aloha. I'm Matt Geyer. I'm with Hawaii Environmental Change Agents and stand in strong support of this and all the Green Fee bills and the intention behind it. I hope that the visitor industry understands that this is really an investment in their businesses as well. By, visitors come here for our environment, and they come here to see our parks and trails, and we really need to invest in them. And no one's going to change their vacation over a small green fee, as is being proposed. So thank you for your support and hearing these measures. Really appreciate it. Aloha.
Thanks very much. I'm sorry, who is that on Zoom that wished to testify?
Hi, I'm Anthony Chang with the Nature Conservancy.
Please go ahead.
Great, mahalo. Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee. We'd also like to thank Representative Lowen and the Environmental Legislative Caucus for introducing this bill. And we submitted testimony that we stand in, support of the bill, particularly, the annual funding with special fund at a level to meet the scale that's really necessary to address our climate and natural resource conservation needs. We just keep it moving. Just, again, support these and the other measures for the green fee, and are here for questions as well. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Anthony.
I would also like to testify via Zoom.
Oh, please go ahead.
Hi, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Chris Cabrera. I'm representing the coalition that Duration mentioned, which is representative of over 40 supportive organizations. We're standing in strong support of this bill, as well as mainly for the three elements that are included in this bill, as well as the bills that were highlighted by the Department of Land and Natural Resources and the Governor's Office, because all of these bills include the key elements that our coalition has explored, including redistribution in some form to nonprofit organizations and local governments, which is also highlighted in HB 442, consequential funding at the $50 per visitor impact fee level, as well as the Public-Private Oversight Commission. We believe these key elements can create the most sustainable and long-term green fee program that will encourage buy-in from visitors and residents. And then going off testimony that was submitted by Tom from the Tax Foundation, I just wanted to offer comments that while the term might be green fee, these bills explore a license mechanism administered by the DLNR. And so through licensing authority, it is our understanding that charging for these services is constitutional, but we encourage and defer to Attorney General review, as well as the bills that were put forward in the governor's package. So thank you so much for your time. I'm here for questions and comments.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure?
Yes, Chair.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Chipper Wickman, and I'm from Haiana on Kauai, and I stand on my written testimony. But I also wanted to add that I've been working for nearly 50 years in the nonprofit sector to try and protect the natural and cultural resources of Haiana. And it wasn't until we were able to create the revenue sharing program with the state parks that we really were able to create a true regenerative tourism model that many places in the state are looking towards. And the beauty of the green fee bill is that it creates a bigger pie rather than trying to cut another piece out of the existing pie, and creates a dedicated revenue stream for the future of our state. So it's super critical. I leave it up to you guys to do the hard work of sorting through all the legal issues and the multitude of bills, but I'm strongly in support of this concept, and thank you for I believe this is the year that it's going to get through the ledge, so good job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? All right, members, questions? Moving on. Next up, we have HB 592 relating to environmental and agricultural protection. First up, we have Hawaii DOA in support.
Good morning, Chair Quinlan. Good morning, Vice Chair Hasi Burdick, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Helmut Rock, Administrator of the Plant Industry Division with the Department of Agriculture. We stand on our written testimony in support of the intent and are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also have HTA with comments.
Aloha kako, standing on our written comments. Mahalo.
Thanks very much. And we have HLTA in support. Members, questions? Seeing none, moving on. HB 1162 relating to visitor impact fees. First up, we have Attorney General with comments.
Thank you, Chair Quinlan, for the opportunity to testify on this bill. And I do want to take this opportunity to respond to the comments from Mr. Yamachika, who I have a great deal of respect for. He raised a concern with the Privileges and Immunities Clause. And courts have actually addressed a similar type of non-resident fee at Hanauma Bay and found that because that fee dealt with Hanauma Bay, like lying on the beach, it wasn't a fundamental right in the same way that the right to own property, the right to engage in commerce, and so on. So the reason that that fee was upheld was because it was recreational and not a fundamental right, and so the Privileges and Immunities Clause didn't apply. And Mr. Yamachika correctly pointed out that the right to travel is a fundamental right. But again, this bill doesn't propose any form of exclusion of travel. And the right to interstate travel isn't necessarily the same as the right to intrastate travel within the state. So the Attorney General's office believes that fundamentally this bill and the ones like it can respond to those constitutional concerns and succeed in the face of a challenge and really let Hawaii be a leader in this type of program. And again, happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. Next, we have Office of the Governor, Blake Oshiro, with comments.
Stand on our written supporting the intent.
Thanks very much. Next, we have DLNR in support. Thanks. Oh, and by the way, you guys don't have to like walk up to the mic. If you guys just want to, you can stay in your seats. We don't want anyone tripping or hurting themselves. Next, we have HTA with comments.
Stand on our written.
There you go. This is great, you guys. Thanks. Next, we have the Maui Hotel and Lodging Association with comments. Next, we have Hawaii Green Fee in support. We also have Surfrider Foundation, the Trust for Public Land, and the National Tropical Botanical Garden, as well as Kupu and the Resources Legacy Fund in support.
Stand on our testimony.
For all of them, huh?
For all.
Okay. We also have Tom Yamachika, Tax Foundation. Tom, you're up.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. I was going to stand on my written testimony, but I now have to respond to what the Attorney General said, so I have to take a couple minutes to do that. We are aware of the Hanuma Bay litigation, and we are aware that judgment was rendered in favor of, I believe, was the city, because the user fee at Hanuma Bay was dedicated simply to protecting and preserving that particular attraction. And we have no trouble with that. We do point out in our testimony that State versus Medeiros, which is a Hawaii Supreme Court case from 1999, set forth a test to distinguish between a user fee like the one in Hanuma Bay and a tax, which is not permitted. And the test is whether the charge number one applies to the direct beneficiary of a particular service, and number two is allocated directly to defraying the costs of providing the service, and three is reasonably proportionate to the benefit received. So if you're talking about just maintaining and keeping up the attractions that the visitor visits, we don't have a problem with that. When you're talking about like supporting the entire operations of DLNR, augmenting beaches, resanding other places, other means of environmental protection, then we think it looks more like a tax. But obviously, the courts are going to have the final word on that. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Tom. Next, we have the Nature Conservancy Hawaii. Anthony, are you with us in support?
Aloha, yes, we stand on our testimony. Mahalo.
Thanks very much. We have Wild Kids Hawaii in support, HLTA in support, a number of individuals in support. Is there anyone else who would like to testify on this measure?
Yeah, I'd like to testify.
Please.
I'm coming in from Zoom. Chris Cabrera, again, with representing the Hawaii Green Fee Coalition. I'd like to just highlight that the similarities between this bill and HB 442 have us testifying in strong support and pushing forward both measures because of the key elements I described, and also that I'm very grateful for the legal conversation that's happening right now in front of the legislature so that we can find common ground about ways to fund our resources for future generations that our residents depend upon, as well as navigate the ways to do this in a legal and sound way. I appreciate everyone's comments, and thank you so much, legislative leaders, for hearing testimony today.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none, moving on. Next up, we have HB 1233 relating to tourism.
Questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I forget that part? Members' questions?
Question. I have a question for DLNR.
Sure, and I do have Alan Carpenter here in case it.
Okay. Just was wondering, under this bill, was wondering what happens with areas like in my community at Haena, where we spent a lot of time establishing a user fee that includes a shuttle, that includes entry to the park. So, we're charging $35 for this service. It gets our visitors off of the, the road and reduces the number of vehicles going into the park. It does a lot of good things and then gets them into the park. So we're trying to encourage this. What happens to this $50 green fee? Does it get tacked on, or what does it? Can we not charge the $35?
Sure. So I will ask Alan to come up. We have been starting to talk about our state parks as sort of the jewels. And so the green fee is really to support all of our natural and cultural resources throughout Hawaii, with our state parks being really the jewels that if you choose to go to a state park, you would pay whatever that state park in addition. And so Alan can come up and elaborate.
Sure. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair. Rep. Nakamura, thank you for the question. Alan Carpenter, Assistant Administrator with State Parks. And I think that is that question is one of the fundamental issues we have with the first two bills on the agenda today. And if you look at Section 3, the very beginning of Section 3 suggests that there would no longer be a separate charge for entrance to a state park. That would undermine all the progress that we've made in places like Haena, and we want to continue to expand on that success. I think the green fee should be much more targeted at going beyond the state park boundaries into all of the 30,000 acres of state parks are pretty well covered with the fee increase that we have enacted, and it's not working everywhere, but it's working great in the places where we have the reservation systems, et cetera. We do need to kind of spread the wealth within that park system, but we need to look at the other 1.8 million acres of DLNR lands, and the green fees should go to that, mostly to those areas outside. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I have a follow-up question, Chair, if that's okay.
Oh, please.
I wanted to find out, this bill and I think the one before establishes the Environmental Legacy Commission. And I was just wondering, under this proposal, the commission itself would be making the allocations. Is that something that is desired by the DLNR to have this entity? We already have a Board of Land and Natural Resources. What is the connection between the two, and how should that relationship work?
Sure. Yeah, so we did take a look at all of these very good questions, and we're able to flesh them out a little bit more in House Bill 1051. And so that's the vehicle we're hoping that we can all coalesce and move that forward in. And so the Environmental Legacy Commission, we don't want to just put it on the BLNR. This is really a whole community coming together, not just DLNR, any county, any other state agency, nonprofit community. And so this commission would be able to vet proposals and will really be representative of everyone in Hawaii working to protect our natural and cultural resources. So we think it's a good structure. And it's similar to the State Legacy Land Commission, which does have representatives and has a really open and transparent process that has worked very well to achieve a lot of significant land protection.
And do you feel that there are adequate protections in the bill to just ensure that there will be limited conflict there, to avoid conflicts of interest, because there's a large sum of money coming in that will be potentially going out to some of the the worthy nonprofit organizations out there?
Yes, I do feel that the structure protects against conflicts of interest. I think it'll be a very competitive process, which I think is good. And I think, I think there'll be a lot of interest, a lot of proposals, and the Environmental Legacy Commission will be able to focus on putting those proposals forward that will have the greatest impact on our natural and cultural resources.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, I'm sorry. One more question.
Oh, please, go ahead.
So I have a question for the Attorney General. Thank you for being here. I wanted to ask you, if a family of 5 comes back to Honolulu, former resident, moved to the mainland, there's a family funeral, they come, so they're not residents of Hawaii. Family of 5, they're here for a few days to attend grandma's funeral. Will they each have to pay a $50 fee?
Well, as non-residents, they would have to pay the fee. And the reason is that as non-residents, they're not, for example, paying taxes in Hawaii.
Correct.
That is used to support those resources that are being impacted. And so the state and the Attorney General's office recognize that to some extent this bill is a matter of the devil's in the details. And that's why there's an allowance for a rulemaking process to make sure that the enforcement is appropriate and fair and done in a careful way. And so I do think that your example is a good one to highlight some of the concerns about enforcement, but it also highlights the reason for this bill in that non-residents don't pay the taxes, and if they're not residents of Hawaii, they're not contributing in the same way that residents are for the maintenance and enforcement of our environmental
So if
resources.
they're coming for the funeral 2 or 3 days and have to go back, they're not going to be using a park or have time to do a hike. Is there an excess?
Well, fortunately, the way the bill is structured, if someone doesn't intend to use the beaches or parks or trails, it's not a requirement that they pay the fee and obtain the license. It's only if they want to take advantage of those resources. So it's not a mandatory requirement. If they just want to come for that family function, they wouldn't have to pay the fee. They could go stay with their family on their private property and not have to incur that fee. So we've tried to build in some accommodations for that situation as well.
Is that reflected in this bill?
I believe both bills, all of the bills in consideration are a fee that is not that every non-resident has to pay. It's that if you're going to take advantage of these resources that the state maintains, you obtain this license in order to do so. So I believe it is a feature of the bills before you today, as well as the administration bill, House Bill 1051.
Okay, thanks. That's a helpful clarification. I have one more question for the Green Fee Coalition. Yeah.
Hi, Representative Nakamura.
Hi. So given, for either one of you, so given that clarification, I'm just wondering, how do you estimate, and what is your estimate then of the visitors who are planning to come and then use our natural resources, engage in a hike or go to a beach park? What is your percentage or estimated percentage of people who would actually pay the fee, and what would that amount to?
Great. So I'm glad this discussion is coming up because it's a question that is often received by the coalition. And so just to stand on that, as state-owned natural resources, these state-owned parks, trails, beaches, we've found that it's very common for visitors to at least traffic one of them. Oh, excuse me. And so we think that if 10 million visitors were coming, that would generate around $500 million a year if all of them paid the license. But using a conservative estimate of that, we would still be generating hundreds of millions of dollars a year for these precious resources, which at this point is an urgent funding need. And so while there hasn't been studies estimating exactly the amount, so I don't feel comfortable saying a number, I think it would also rely on the public education and marketing of the new requirement to encourage visitor buy-in for payment and making the reservation and obtaining the license simple and straightforward.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Members, questions? On any green fees issues? Okay. We are moving on now to HB 1233 relating to tourism. First we have University of Hawaii at Manoa in support. So we have HTA with comments.
We have UHST.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Dan Spencer representing.
Please.
Aloha, I'm Dan Spencer with the University of Hawaii, and I'm the researcher who would be tasked with conducting this study to estimate the social carrying capacity of tourism in Hawaii. and I stand on my written testimony.
Thank you very much. Next, we have HTA with comments.
Stand on the written, Chair.
Thank you. Next, we have the Maui Sustainable Tourism Committee in support. And we have a number of individuals, a large number of individuals in support. Is there anyone here who would wish to testify on this measure? Please, come on up.
Hi, thank you, members of the committee. My name is Jolie Tokusato, and I represent Local 5, a hotel, food service, and healthcare worker union. We enthusiastically support the intent of this bill. We stand by our written testimony, but I wanted to highlight one point, so hopefully you folks won't forget us. Local 5 wants a more balanced approach to any study, and it should include labor and all stakeholders. For instance, we believe CLEAR, the Center for Labor and Research, should be an equal driver in this study. NOC 5 deeply cares about our community and the impact of tourism on our community. And you can see that in our involvement in the Turtle Bay, for instance, the Turtle Bay expansion a bunch of years ago. We have a great video on that if anybody wants to see it. We also would be happy to provide any kind of input if you folks want our help. So thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming in person. Is there anyone else who would like to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members' questions. Seeing none, moving on. HB 1237 relating to a green user fee program. First, we have Office of the Governor with comments.
Stand on our written support.
Thanks very much. Next, we have DLNR with comments.
We also stand on our written testimony.
Thank you so much. HTA, comments.
Yes. Stand on the written. Wow.
Thank you very much. We have the Trust for Public Land in support. The Resources Legacy Fund in support. Thank you very much. We have Tom Yamachika, Tax Foundation, with comments.
Thank you, Chair, members. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. I just wanted to react to an issue that came up in the colloquy for the previous green fee bill, and that is whether the green fee would be imposed in addition to an attraction-specific user fee. And I got from the colloquy there that DLNR was intending that the fees would be additive, and that that they would want to use those fees primarily for the parks other than the so-called crown jewels. My comment on that is, if they make the fees additive, then the visitor green fee is going to sound more like a tax, because a separate fee is being charged to the tourist for the privilege of going to that specific attraction, which would, I think, lessen the chance of it surviving constitutional scrutiny. And we also suggest that, yes, I mean, it is important that the smaller parks, the fewer or the less well-traveled places be supported as well. But that's what general fund tax money is for. That's why you appropriate money to the Department of Land and Natural Resources to take care of such things. And we may be talking about some fine distinctions here, but I think those are going to be important in figuring out whether this thing is going to be upheld on court. I'd be happy to answer any further questions.
Thanks very much. Next, we have the Nature Conservancy, Hawaii. Anthony, are you with us? Okay. Next, we have HLTA in support. A number of individuals in support, including my own constituent, Denise Antolini. If you're watching, hi, Denise. And we have the Maui Sustainable Tourism Committee in support. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on this measure?
I'd like to testify.
Please.
My name is Chris Cabrera, but this time I'm testifying as an individual and not on behalf of the coalition. I'm testifying in support of the Green User Fee Program in concept, because I believe that the details in this measure will be key to standing up a larger visitor impact fee program, including the fact that it would include other languages. It may provide opportunities to highlight nonprofit events, local businesses, ways to give back and uphold the transition to more sustainable and regenerative tourism as a visitor. And I also strongly support the concept of integrating the reservation system into a mobile app to be friendly for many visitors. So thank you for hearing my testimony.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members' questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to HB 1238 relating to transient accommodations hosting platforms. First up, we have HTA with comments.
Stand on the written, Chair.
Thanks very much. We have Airbnb with comments, and we also have Airbnb in opposition.
Chair David Louie, again, thank you for the opportunity, Vice Chair, members. I just want to point out that while I understand the concerns that the legislature and the state have on short-term rentals, that this particular bill, which we've provided written testimony on, is potentially problematic because it's vague. It just says that you can regulate in this area. And the concerns have been that there are constitutional dimensions. The legislature has an obligation to make any legislation that it enacts conform with the Constitution, conform with the federal laws and things like that. And so that could be potentially problematic if that's allowed. And let me just note for the following bill, because I'm supposed to be in a meeting shortly with the Attorney General, is that for I forget the name of the bill, 1374, has the same kind of concerns. Potentially vague and would potentially run afoul of constitutional requirements. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on this measure? Members' questions? Seeing none, moving on. HB 1374 relating to the counties. We have HTA with comments.
Stand on the written, sir.
Thank you. And keep it Kailua in support. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on this or any other measure? If not, members' questions? All right, recess for DM. Welcome back to decision making on our 10 o'clock agenda. So first up, we have HB 85. I think that it's an important bill, and I think that it's really beneficial to everyone. So I'd like to move this out with an effective date of July 1, 3000. Right, Daniel?
June 30. June 30.
June 30. I don't know why I've got it stuck in my head. Get there eventually. June 30, 3000. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Members, we're voting on HB 85. The chair's recommendation is to pass with an HD 1. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Holt.
Aye.
Representative Kong.
Aye.
Representative Lamasau.
Aye.
Representative Nakamura.
Aye.
And Representative Perrick is excused. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much, members. And next up, we have HB 211. So you'll notice that there are a number of different bills that are sort of attempting to regulate Airbnb. I'd like to just keep them all moving so that we can continue to discuss this very important issue. So I'd like to move out HB 211 with an effective date of June 30, 3000. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Members, we're voting on HB 211. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Noting the absence of Representative Perrick, do I hear any reservations? Any no votes? Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you very much, members. HB 442, nobody freak out. I'm going to defer it, but there's one more bill, okay? We're going to pass the other one. So don't worry, you guys. Still, the idea is still alive. So we're going to defer. Members, questions, comments, concerns on that? All right, thank you very much. Moving on to HB 592, relating to environmental and agricultural protection. I'd like to move this out with an effective date of June 30, 3000. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Members, we are voting on HB 592. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Holt.
Yes.
Oh, Representative Kong.
Aye.
Representative Lamasau.
Aye.
Representative Nakamura.
Aye.
And Representative Perrick is excused.
Thank you very much, members. Okay, the main event for today. Well, the first main event for today, I should say. HB 1162, relating to visitor impact fees. So we're going to do a few things to this bill, and I'm going to do something that's interesting, and I really want to thank Deputy Attorney General Daniel Morris for calling me yesterday and explaining some of these issues to me. But I do feel that the Environmental Legacy Commission is duplicative in a lot of different respects. So for now, just for now, we're going to strike all references to the Environmental Legacy Commission, transfer all duties of the Environmental Legacy Commission to the Board of Land and Natural Resources. We're going to add 4 full-time positions to DLNR to help administer this program. We're going to set the civil penalty at $500 per infraction. And we're going to make it clear that the state can charge destination fees on top of our environmental license. And we're going to ask DBED to study the potential revenues generated by this bill. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Okay, members, we are voting on HB 1162 with amendments described by the chair. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Holt.
Aye.
Representative Kong.
Aye.
Representative Lamasau.
Aye.
Representative Nakamura.
Aye.
Representative Perrick.
Aye.
Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you very much, members. Next up, we have HB 1233, relating to tourism. I think this is a really great bill, and I'm going to let the Vice Chair describe the amendments.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate all of the testifiers who came in today and submitted written testimony and testified on Zoom. We did read all of it, and there were some thoughtful amendments that we wanted to include. We are going to incorporate the amendments recommended by Dr. Daniel Spencer from UH, as well as the amendments suggested by Professor Denise Antolini, and the amendments suggested by Local 5. We're also going to defect the date to the same date, June 30th, 3000. Members, does anybody have any questions? Do you take the vote now?
Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Okay. We are voting on HB 1233, recommending to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Holt.
Aye.
Representative Kong.
Aye.
Representative Lamasao.
Aye.
Representative Nakamura.
Aye.
And Representative Perrick.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendations are adopted.
Thank you very much, members. Next up, we have HB 1237 relating to a green user fee program. We're going to defect the date to June 30, 3000. Members' questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Representatives, we are voting on HB 1237 with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Noting the presence of all members, do we hear any reservations? Any noes? Chair, your recommendations are adopted.
Thank you so much, members. Next, we have HB 1238 relating to transient accommodations hosting platforms. I'd like to move this out with a defective date of June 30, 3000. Members' questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Members, we are voting on HB 1238 with an HD1. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Noting the presence of all members, do we hear any reservations? Any noes? Chair, your recommendations are adopted.
Thank you, members. Very last bill on our 10 o'clock agenda today is HB 1374 relating to the counties. Once again, I would like to move this with a defective date of June 30, the year 3000. Members' questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
All right, we are voting on HB 1374 with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Noting the presence of all members, do we hear any reservations? Any noes? Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you very much, everyone. Hello and good morning. Welcome to our 11 a.m. agenda. This is the Committee on Tourism. It is February 2nd, and we are in room 423. Thank you. We have one bill on this agenda, and it is HB 1375. Is this the updated list? Great. First up, we have dough tax with comments.
Hello, Chairman Quinlan, Vice Chair, and committee members. My name is Brian Davidson. I'm here on behalf of the Department of Taxation. We did provide comments, and I am available for any questions. Otherwise, we stand on the comments we provided.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have DBED with comments. Director Sadiasu.
Thank you, chairs and vice chairs and members of the committees. Excited to be here. First official testimony as DBED director, so glad to be here. We stand on our testimony and available to answer any questions.
And thank you for coming, Director. I know it was a very long walk. Next, we have OIP with comments. We have HLTA with comments. We have the Civil Beat Law Center for the Public Interest with comments. Okay, someone's got to be here. Tom Yamachika, are you there? Are you with us, Tom? We need some testimony, live testimony.
I am here. Our comments, of course, are limited to the effect on the tax laws. And we, as we have several times before in other legislative sessions, express, concerns about the use or overuse or misuse of special funds because they do decrease transparency and decrease the amount of accountability and control that you as legislators have. I'd be happy to answer further questions, so I'll be available. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Next we have John Knox with comments.
Aloha, Chair Quinlan, Vice Chair Hussey Burdick, and committee members. I'm John Knox. And basically, if the committee is inclined to create a full-time commission, I would respectfully request that the law somewhat further clarify what the powers and responsibilities of the commissioners are. These are full-time commissioners. They are apparently constrained by the Sunshine Law. So it would help to understand what sectors they might represent and what background they would be required to have. I would further respectfully request that HB 1381 be scheduled for a hearing. That bill would fund a global study of destination management governance models. It would determine several alternative structures that might be feasible here and obtain substantial public review and input from our residents, our industry, labor, and other stakeholders. Passage of 1375 would be already a decision about changing the governance model in advance of doing that. However, if this is done, it shouldn't rule out still learning what other destinations who have experienced over-tourism have done in response to it. If the committee chooses to advance HB 1375, please also consider HB 1381 and its objective. Thank you for the opportunity to submit these comments.
Thank you very much, John. Next up, we have Barry Solomon in support. We also have Axel Beers in support. The chair of Maui Sustainable Tourism Committee in support. And HTA with comments.
Aloha, Chair Quinlan, Chair Holt, Vice Chair Hussey Burdick, Vice Chair Lamosal, aloha nui kako members. Ilihia Johnson for the Hawaii Tourism Authority. We also have with us this morning our Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Daniel Naho'opi'i, as well as our Chief Brand Officer, Mr. Kalani Ka'ana'ana. Our President and CEO, John DeFries, is under the weather today, so he sends his regrets to all of you. We stand on our written testimony and stand ready for the discussion that we're sure is coming. Mahalo.
Thanks very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members' questions? Please.
for Hawaii Tourism Authority.
Aloha, Rep.
Aloha. One of the testimony, or a couple of them, have to do with the sharing of the marketing plan after the award. Is that under the current system in place? Is that information shared with the public?
I'll defer to our Chief Brand Officer who oversees all of those efforts. Kalani?
Hello, members. Kalani Ka'anana, Chief Brand Officer of the Hawaii Tourism Authority. Yes, those brand marketing plans are shared with the public. They do end up on our full board agendas and are discussed and approved by the board in a public session.
Okay. And so that carrying over that language into this bill would be consistent with current practices.
Yeah, and it's the best practice from our perspective as well. So all of the brand marketing plans do go before the board for approval.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members, any further questions? Please, Representative Pierre.
Just to clarify, is this $79 million more or the previous price for HTA?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
I'm not sure who this question would go to, but is the $79 million from the special fund, or for the special fund, is that more out of the state budget, or is it just carrying over from the HTA authority?
So, we no longer are funded by TAT through the special fund at this time. In 2021, yeah?
Yeah, line.
In 2021, in session, we were removed from TAT funding, funded instead with ARPA at a level of $60 million a year. So $79 million from the tourism special fund was previous to that 2021 decision. So we're currently, our request that's in at this time is for $75 million for the next fiscal year, which includes a $15 million incremental above our base of $60 million. So I hope that answers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rep.
Members, any further questions? If not, let's recess for DM. Welcome back to decision making on our 11 o'clock agenda. Members and members of the public, this is a really, really important issue for me, and this is an issue that is near and dear to my heart. And it's destination management and it's visitor education, because the district that I represent, the North Shore of Oahu and Kolauloa, we've seen disproportionate impacts from tourism. It can be life-changing when you have that mass of people flowing into your community day after day after day. And we've been begging for help, and we haven't gotten a lot of help, quite frankly. And what I'd like to do is to create a structure where the state can provide that help to local communities, because we've done a lot for visitors in Hawaii. We've done a lot for the visitor industry in Hawaii. And I think that at long last, it's very appropriate that we start doing things for all of us. And I don't care if you moved here yesterday or if your family's been here for 700 years, I'm talking about you. Local residents have to be the primary concern. So the position of the House is that we feel very strongly about destination management, but we also feel very strongly that if HTA is to continue in whatever form it is, whether it's as HTA or a reimagined entity, it must be an independent body. It has to have its independence, free of, in some cases, legislative interference. Because while I may trust myself as tourism chair, I'm worried about the next tourism chair and the one after that. So to that end, we're going to keep the 3-member paid commission, but we are going to remove the advice and consent of the Senate. It is going to be a purely governor's appointment. And as far as funding is concerned, we're going to set the funding level at HTA, for HTA at $100 million in TAT, with the caveat, and this is the tricky part, that $50 million a year will go into the County Assistance Special Fund. It is a funding program to provide matching funds for counties to apply for projects, to apply for help funding projects that are contained within the DMAPs that this agency creates. And I think it's very important to note that the state is bringing in 10 million visitors a year, and then we're telling the counties that they have to deal with all of the impacts. And I know that we gave the counties the ability to levy their own TAT, but I also know that some of the counties' budgets are still extremely constrained, and I think it is appropriate that the state provide even more assistance, not just in terms of strategic long-term planning, branding, and marketing, but also in terms of cold, hard cash. And we'll also be defecting the date to June 30, 3000. Members, questions, comments, concerns?
I just want to make a comment. I just want to thank you, Chair, for your work on this and your willingness to go bold and take decisive action. My community is also one that has been disproportionately harmed by the negative impacts of tourism. And I also want to thank the visitor industry for being here and your willingness to explore this idea with us. I saw no testimony in opposition, and so I think that really says a lot about the new direction that we're going in, and I just appreciate everyone for being at the table and having this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Members, any further questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
All right, members, we are voting on HB 1375 with amendments as described by the Chair. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Member Holt,
Aye.
who's also a chair but voting as a member in this committee.
Aye.
Representative Kong.
Aye.
Representative Lamasao.
Aye.
Representative Nakamura.
Aye.
Representative Parrott.
No.
No. Chair, your recommendation is adopted in the Tourism Committee.
Thank you, members.
ECD, same recommendation.
We are now voting for ECD on HB 1375. Recommendation of the chairs to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Member Hussey Burdick.
Aye.
Member Kong.
Aye.
Member Nakamura.
Aye.
Member Quinlan.
Aye.
And Member Pierrick.
No.
Chair, your measure is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, members. We are adjourned.